New York recently introduced a bill that would allow Las Vegas-style betting in casinos. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver promoted the idea of the association getting involved in the process to ensure that the league maintains the integrity of the game while allowing for a fair and legal way to wager on their games. I'm joined by our sports betting experts, Emmanuel Toe, Blake Stepman, and Will Burns, to discuss the state of sports betting. Now, guys, how can the NBA and other sports leagues preserve the integrity of the game while also being involved in sports betting?
Well, there are a lot of pros and cons to sports betting. The NBA included, they want to keep the integrity of the game. That's the most important part. If betting does go national, then they would consume 1% of the total revenue, which is good for them. But the main thing is integrity, and you don't want people blowing up on Twitter saying, "Oh, the refs."
Yeah, I agree with the integrity part. That's a really big deal if we're going to have gambling in these professional leagues. But there's a lot of problems with betting in the leagues itself.
Problems like what? What are you talking about?
Well, in 2007, there was an NBA referee who actually bet on a game that he was a ref for. And so he actually went to jail for 15 months because of that. Well, that's an example of that. You can't have that.
Yeah, but we're talking about in terms of like people like outside the sport gambling. To me, that shouldn't be a problem.
No, but you can still have that where people in the sport gamble or they.
To me, if that's an issue, then we're really talking about like integrity and making sure that everything is fair and
But
balanced.
would we really want to risk that? I don't think it's worth it for the game.
To me, it is. I mean, if you look at it, a lot of people are already gambling. You know, it's projected that people will spend $10 billion on the March Madness tournament gambling, and only 10% of that is supposed to be legal.
But that's March Madness, and in college sports, money is not supposed to go around to the players, so that's already illegal. These players are being paid in the NBA, MLB, NFL. If you have even more cash flow going through to where they could stage these games, that's a really big problem for the league.
But they're also competitors, though. I mean, if you look at them, I doubt that a lot of them will just be like, yeah, I'll take, this $100,000 over, the millions that they're getting paid, as well as like the want that they have to win the game.
Well, yeah, they got to keep the referees out of it for sure. And you also don't want a situation like Pete Rose, where he was found betting on games, and then he wasn't allowed in the Hall of Fame, although he definitely deserves to be for what he did as a player.
I feel like in Pete Rose's situation, though, that he loved his team so much, and he was betting towards his team. So if it was like against, I feel like a coach should have that pride as it is. I feel like that's a little different scenario for me. But I think if a coach or a player is like, I want my team to win, I feel that we're the best, I kind of feel a little differently about that compared to, say, an actual player is not trying their best, like a LeBron James.
I honestly don't think anyone like in the industry, like anyone who's like working in the industry, should be allowed to like gamble on like the sport that they're working on. Because I mean, if you look at like the DraftKings situation that we had, I want to say like either last year or 2 years ago, where there was someone who worked in DraftKings and they were also gambling through DraftKings, and it kind of gave them that unfair advantage that people were like complaining about. To me, if you have like people in the leagues that are gambling, then you have a problem. But I think you shouldn't stop the fans or the people outside.
Well, they can already really do that. As we know, there is gambling in all. People already gamble. They gamble with their friends. They gamble with their best friends. In fantasy football, you play and you might put money on the line for these sports.
I'm not worried about fans, though. To me, that's good, though. But when we're talking about inside the sport, and we're talking about really throwing in like large amounts of cash and stuff like that, that's when.
Well, it can affect the players, and we've seen it in the past. So why would we do this if it can really hurt the integrity?
I'm not worried about the players doing it. They're making, especially in the NBA, the average salary is $7 million. The top players are making nearly $30 million. I'm not worried about the players doing this. Maybe some of the 12th man on the team.
So you think another referee or a situation like that is going to hurt a game like that? Because we do see
just
games
the questions
these days,
that are raised even regarding referees. I think that's their biggest worry.
Yeah, we already do have questions regarding referees. We see plays at the end of games, fouls that should be called or not be called, and I think that's a big problem. But I think if you add money involved to where they could be getting paid $2,000 to give this team an extra call.
They can get paid $2,000 underneath the table. Like, I don't see how. Like, if you add this question of like fans of people on the outside, I don't see how that will like completely change everything. People could already do that. People could already be paying referees.
Do it.
If you like really put security on, if you really look at what your players, what your referees, what everyone is doing, that's really how you keep it safe, keep it, keep the integrity up.
I feel like under the table could work better for these players, for like referees and such, because if you're doing it for real, like the referee in 2007, there was actually proof that he was getting money under the table. But if you were doing it like backhand, I feel like people wouldn't really know as much, and that guy wouldn't have gone to jail and suffer all these consequences. But I think it is a big problem in the leagues if this was to happen. And since we already had this happen once, do we really want to risk it again if the NBA and all these other leagues
Yeah,
are really
but
making money?
It sounds like a bit of muddy water, but potentially sports betting coming to a casino near us soon. Only time will tell. But that's all the time for us here on One on One. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at One on One Sports. I'm always here at the studio. Whose side are you on?